An American billionaire, Donald Trump, says he's confident of attracting a major championship to the controversial course that he's building on a stretch of the Aberdeenshire coastline, designated a site of important scientific interest. Despite protests from environmentalists and those living nearby, the greens and fairways are well underway, and Mr. Trump is expected to visit soon, just as a documentary is released charting the fight to stop the development. Jane Deith reports from Aberdeen.
The slowly shifting sands of the Aberdeen coast. The wind has been sculpting these dunes for 4,000 years. But in Donald Trump's eyes, they were perfectly shaped for golf. He now owns some of them, and work has started on creating his vision.
It's going to be the greatest golf course anywhere in the world, and they have a chance to really do something very historic.
Donald Trump believes he can attract the Open or the Ryder Cup, and amateur golfers prepared to pay at least £150 to play the championship course.
What do you see when you look at the 14th hole? A lot of people see massive economic investment, something they say this corner of northeast Scotland would have been crazy to pass up. But others see the wanton destruction of a unique dune habitat, which was supposed to be protected.
As the opening gets nearer, the business community is expecting cash to roll in as the Donald Trump name pulls in the punters.
Why Trump? Because the brand name is so strong, and it will pull in those overseas visitors who are linked to our key current sector, oil and gas. The markets that they come from are the same markets we're interested in golf. So there's a symmetry there to the proposal.
But some of these dunes were a site of special scientific interest, to be left alone for the birds like kittiwakes and guillemots. The Scottish Wildlife Trust says it was the worst planning decision in Scottish history.
If the dunes stop moving, then other plants will come in, we'll start getting soils forming, eventually we'll have trees, and there'll be the whole nature of that habitat will be lost completely, be turned into something else.
Hello, everybody.
The conflict between environmentalists and locals versus Trump International has reached a new pitch in recent weeks. Anthony Baxter's documentary, You've Been Trumped, tells the story of people whose homes are surrounded by the golf course.
Are you filming at the moment? I am now, yeah, sorry.
After he walked into the Trump estate office uninvited, they called Grampian police. Later, 2 officers come to find Anthony Baxter.
There's been an alleged breach of the peace up at the Mini estate this morning. What we need to do now...
You do know what?
You've been detained under Section 14 of Criminal Procedure.
Grampian police would put him in a cell and seize his camera. The charge was eventually dropped.
Will you loosen those cuffs, please? Will you stop doing that to me?
We went and tried to find the other side of the story, and we did an interview with one of Mr. Trump's workers, and then a few hours later we find ourselves in prison cells.
But on the Trump estate, they were unapologetic about getting the police involved.
It makes people wonder whether Grampian police are in your pockets, or at the very least it looked like a terrible PR blunder.
It wasn't our PR blunder. Anthony Baxter had been on site on a number of occasions prior to that, and we had notified the police about his conduct. He was deliberately obstructive in front of heavy machinery at our compound where serious work is taking place. The way he has handled himself on site has been totally unacceptable.
Michael Forbes has been the main thorn in Donald Trump's side, living bang in the middle of the golf course. Mr. Trump has said his farm's like a slum and he wants it gone. But Mr. Forbes isn't going to sell because he believes the Trump project will fail.
They'll come here once and they'll say, oh, too foggy, too rainy, too cold, Today, lovely today. You maybe get about 3-4 weeks good a year, It's not going to be a success. It's going to be a big white elephant.
Trump International requested compulsory purchase orders, but says it never formally applied for them. Then, according to Mr. Forbes and his neighbour David Milne, there were tricks to get them to sell. A man came round saying he wanted to buy a holiday home, but was actually a consultant working for Mr. Trump.
We've had the initial use of false names to try and buy the properties individually. We've had offers submitted in legal form that are meaningless and quite laughable at level. We've had boundary disputes, trees being planted, earth banks, verbal threats on the doorstep.
Trump International admitted a consultant had used his middle names when asking to buy the houses, but said there'd been no deceit in trying to add to Mr. Trump's property portfolio. David Milne and the others say they've lost the dunes, but they won't lose their homes. When the golf course opens next summer, they're adamant not everything will be on Mr. Trump's terms. Jane Deith, Channel 4 News, Aberdeen.